Hey, it's Keith. Have you ever thought about creating your own audio drama? Ever wanted to make your first episode of something? Then you should know about the Audio Drama Lab. It's a Discord-based resource for audio drama development and networking. You can connect with other creators, find actors and musicians, and even incubate your idea with step-by-step advice, accountability, and encouragement. Check it out at audiodramalab.com and start telling your story. Hello, and welcome to the first episode of a podcast about audio drama and the creative process. I'm W. Keith Timms, audio drama producer and podcaster. In this show, I listen to the first episode of an audio drama, then have a discussion with the creators about their show, their methods, struggles, and successes. Today, we're discussing the first episode of Human-B-Gon.
After winning the singularity wars against the humans, life is good for us robots. Now we have jobs, homes, and families.
Morning, Gib.
Morning, Dust.
But there's still the occasional pesky human infestation. Luckily, there's Human-B-Gon, ethical human relocation.
A sci-fi comedy created by Frohman, Human-B-Gon presents itself as a reality show set in the near future. Robots have taken over the world and now live a suburban life in Droidston, Manitoba. But there's still the problem of human infestation. We follow a crew of emotionally unstable robots as they capture stray humans and, ethically, relocate them to Garbage Island. The first episode, Dinger Danger, introduces us to the Human-B-Gon crew. The needy Kit, owner of the business, the attention-seeking Hundo, and the arrogant Influx. The crew is called in to deal with an infestation of humans at celebrity robot 8 Blanchette's house. But when 8 starts flirting with Hundo, Kit becomes jealous. Human-B-Gon is part of the Fable and Folly network. Frohman works in Toronto at Sound Studio Tattoo, but I spoke with him remotely while he was away in Mexico. Tell me a little bit about yourself as an artist or creative type.
I'm definitely a sort of a writer at the core. I kind of think of everything in sort of terms of that. What I do to pay the rent is I'm an audio director at this lovely production studio called Tattoo, Sound and Music up in Toronto. Mostly commercials. I've done a couple of animated series, which were a lot of fun. A fair bit of podcasts. But in my spare time, I'm constantly writing, coming up with ideas. Spent several years working with animators trying to make things which didn't quite pan out. I wrote an indie comic and drew it myself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then so I'm constantly just sort of coming up with ideas and then not following through properly, which is a whole thing we'll get into once we start talking about Human-B-Gon. I guarantee it.
Well, it sounds like you're a bit of a Renaissance man. You do visual art and you do sound and you do writing.
Well, yeah, it's so funny. I originally went to art college. I grew up in a very small town. I went to art college. I was going to draw comics. I was convinced I was going to draw Marvel comics. Bernie Wrightson was one of my heroes, all those guys, John Romita Jr., all that kind of stuff. And then I found out I wasn't nearly as good or had the passion for it. Like a couple of years into art college, it was like, I was dropping further in the class because I'm watching the guys and gals who excelled and like they could not do it. They were never off. And I was like, I'm not that passionate about it like that. So it kind of drank a lot for a year. And then I discovered this advertising class, which was sort of a window into writing. And that was like, oh, wow, this is really interesting. And then I kind of got sucked into advertising and started writing, found my passion into it there, and was a very bad art director, visual side, and so bad at it that I ended up being a writer. And then Yeah. So, and then I got sucked into the audio side. I fell in love with the audio side because it's so intensely visual plus imagination. From there, trying to push into just sort of pure artistic expression, trying to do people's ideas, where the job isn't to persuade, rather it's just to delight.
What do you mean that audio is a visual medium?
there's something about audio. If it's done right, then I can imagine everything. I can totally imagine the horses. I can imagine the stormy skies, the mud on the ground. I can imagine all that stuff. I mean, I was a fan of the old time radio stuff, even as a kid.
Sure.
The Shadow and all that kind of stuff.
When I think about the audio medium, I do think of it as kind of visual because of the theater of the mind factor, right?
Mm-hmm.
That when you take away one of the senses, sight specifically here, then that lets the viewer imagine themselves into whatever they're hearing. I should say the listener in this case. Because it's the listener that's doing the work, it becomes really personal to the listener, that they fill in the gaps with what they imagine the world should be based on the cues that you're giving them. And to me, that makes audio drama this very intimate kind of personal medium.
Absolutely. It's one of the things. We haven't gotten into the show, but what the hell? When we were looking at, well, how do we market this thing? Everyone wants to know what the robots look like. But that's part of the fun of this. I don't want to show them. I'm hoping that people picture them in all sorts of completely different ways.
Yeah. The voice actors, of course, have a lot to do with that, too. I mean, the writing as well.
Yeah.
But, Hundo has a voice. She has this, party girl, kind of self-involved a way of talking that's not just from the writing, but also from the actor portraying her. And that invariably colors how I personally see her in my mind.
Look, Hundo, that's me, doesn't leak herself in anyone's basmati rice bed. What Hundo does is go to the club. Hundo rolls past the lineup because Hundo knows the owner and the owner knows Hundo. So Hundo does a tri-tube of neon. Hundo hooks up with 2 orgasmatrons, maybe also named Hundo. I don't know, because I kind of blacked out at that point. And then I wake up in a basmati rice bed and Hundo is at work and on time.
So since we're talking about the show, why don't you just tell me a little bit about Human-B-Gon in your own words?
Well, it's an audio comedy that's it's set in the future, hopefully not too near the future, but it's set in the future where the humans and the machines have had the singularity wars. They've had this war, this Terminator style war, and the robots won. It took like 20 minutes, I imagine, like really honestly. And then so the robots have now built this sort of suburban society. They have a city and suburbs, and they have a class system. But the problem is that the few humans that are left are these reduced to basically raccoons. They're basically the raccoons in the robot city of Droidston. So we follow this crew, this blue collar crew of robots who have this little company called Human-B-Gon, and they're a pest control firm. And so like in a reality show like Dog the Bounty Hunter, Pawn Stars and all that, we follow this crew as they go do jobs, capturing these pesky humans and then ethically relocating them.
What's the genesis for this story for you?
It's actually several years. I had this original idea way back, and I want to say 2018 was the first time I was like, honestly, it was, it was terror from AI. It was just like, what? I always found it in sci-fi stuff that when it comes to robots and AI is that we're adorable in how we think the humans are going to somehow square up to the robots in any fashion. And the more I was thinking about it, it's like, I don't know that that's the case. I mean, they may not even care that we exist. Like that just might be just us projecting, thinking that we're important. We may not be. And so thinking about that was like, oh, so what if we were raccoons? I'm in Toronto. So if anyone listening from Toronto, they'll know what I'm talking about. Like raccoons in Toronto is the whole thing. So it was like, what if the humans were raccoons? Okay, that's really interesting. And then the other thing that made it interesting to me was thinking, well, if these machines become self-aware and they get hit with all the neuroses we do, like, what are they going to do? Because we all know that intelligence is no protection against denial or any of these neuroses. So even if they're hyper intelligent, they might end up, it'd be kind of hilarious to think that they'll be as ridiculously human and flawed and silly and drug-addled as we are.
Yeah.
So all those kind of layers became like, oh, this could be really interesting. I originally thought of it as maybe almost like a Taxi. Remember Taxi, that show?
I do. Yeah.
Kind of like that. Sort of like a bunch of working stiffs. It's sort of a workplace comedy, like a blue collar, The Office. Yeah. But okay, so how is the narrator? How does that work? And I didn't quite know how that was going to work in audio. And then it was the reality show thing. I forget how, but that popped up. I was like, oh, that's the delivery system for exposition. Now, And then realizing it's that, but it's the perfect sort of medium for neuroses, right?
Right.
Reality shows, that's all they are, is a showcase of people's insecurities. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, right. The characters will be the unreliable narrators. I couldn't find a podcast that sounded anything like it. I later came to find out why, but at the time it was like, oh my God, this is going to be sonically unique too.
Why are reality shows they're not common in the audio drama space?
Well, as I came to find out, it's because they're really production heavy.
Yeah.
Like, then I was like, oh, okay, so I'm writing this, tickety-tack, right. And oh my God, the announcers and characters are going to tell us what's going on. I'm so clever that this is working. And in the script, it's easy to type in SFX, And I thought, oh, this is going to sound amazing. But it was the music that was a big surprise to me when we really got into it. It's like, there's a new music cue in a reality show every time somebody says something.
I do want to say that is one of the things that I think really nails the feeling of a reality show in Human-B-Gon, is that you have these music cues that change every time you change perspective, change narrators, or change the emotional tone of the scene. To me, as soon as I heard that, I was like, I'm watching a reality show.
Oh my gosh, algorithm 8 Blanchett! This is Kid from Human-B-Gon. We spoke on the comms earlier.
Oh, yes, I can hear you.
I'll be liaising with you remotely today. OMGUI, I am such a huge fan. Yeah.
Hollynode stars are usually the worst clients, but 8 Blanchett was kind of cool. Not like 7 Hart. Ugh.
Total squag.
Even if I'm not physically at the job site, I think it's important for me to be that first line of contact with the client. Especially today, because Hundo's in such a vulnerable state emotionally right now. And, well, did you see her in 4 Random Walk?
The composer, Oliver Wickham, as it turns out, was absolutely perfect for this. Not only because he's super, super talented, he's really smart. And as you could see in this thing, you have to be able to kind of have a handle on all these different genres. And it's like he can nail all that. But the other thing is it turns out, I didn't know this, and he's a total reality show. Like, he loves that trash. Like, he's all about Inked and Vanderpump Rules and all that. That's a huge one. Like, already knowing the vibe and already writing for it.
And I think that speaks to one of the powers of audio drama too, is that the sonic template, as you said, for a reality show really sells it in Human-B-Gon. And that tells me that we are trained to hear things in certain ways, and that when those cues are met, it's a great way to instantly bring an audience into a particular space.
As we were writing and then editing and then go back and all that kind of stuff and dialogue editing, especially in the dialogue editing, it really became apparent that the closer you hew to reality show, the funnier everything got. Writing a fake reality show is you kind of have to do a lot of bad writing. It has to be
Right.
really exposition heavy, and then you have to double your things. You're being intentionally unsubtle with your jokes. And then with the music, you go brah, brah, brah. Like, it's against all your instincts of being clever, if you know what I mean.
Let's talk a little bit about the first episode, which is called Dinger Danger. And we get to meet the crew, which is 3 of these robots that work for Human-B-Gon. We got Kit, who is the owner of the business. He inherited that business from his father, and he is desperate for approval and success. That's kind of one of his core motivations. He wants to be loved and liked and seen as a success. Then we have Hundo, who is their catching specialist. She's kind of a party girl. She's very self-involved. She thinks of herself as a great musician, even though she's not. You actually talk about how the robots are ranked according to their intelligence. And, Hundo is the lowest intelligence rank of the trio. She used to date Kit, so there's some tension there. Then we have Influx, who is the smartest, but he's their tech specialist. He's also he's a morphing vehicle. He can change into whatever kind of vehicle they need for a particular show. Influx, because he thinks he's so smart, he's kind of above it all. He thinks he's smarter than everyone else, but he's also a big fan of conspiracy theories and that kind of thing. None of these robots are particularly smart, despite their designation. Or self-aware or empathic, right? They're all really kind of selfish in many different ways. Talk to me about your choice of writing characters like this.
Well, that came back to the theme we were talking about before of asking the question, what would happen to machines once they became self-aware? And what if they just got blindsided by the big questions of why are we here? What are we about? What's my purpose? And I thought it was really funny to think that even though they're hyper intelligent, they'll blast right past the human race as far as that. But emotional intelligence, this will be their first crack at it. So they might just be completely neurotic messes. In fact, it might be worse because of their advanced intelligence. So it was really, so then it became, if that's the case, then what are the core insecurities of each of your three main characters? And I kind of built them that way. Like what you said, Kit's insecurity is this desperate need to be liked, to be thought of as the morally good one. Yeah, Hundo is desperate for attention and adulation, and so is overcompensates that way. And then Influx thinks he's too smart for emotion, which of course makes him the most vulnerable to any and all sort of insecurities. That's such a fun thing to do, just to make the most insecure people. And then the reality show format is so much fun because then every time they narrate something, you try to make it as unreliable a narration as possible because it's filtered through their neurosis.
Yeah. Because of the format of a reality show, you get this kind of instant gratification of we get to see something happen, and then we immediately cut to one robot's viewpoint on it, and then another robot comments, and that's completely different. And not only do we get some humor out of that, but we also get insight into the characters themselves as to what their needs and drives are.
Actually, at first I was toying with the idea of having a narrator. Like that's a thing that reality shows have to decide off the top. Do they have a narrator? And at first I was going to have that, like in Kitchen Nightmares, things are getting busy and, Janice is on her phone more than in the back or whatever. Right. But It seemed to me that every moment you can try to make the narration be a character moment. This is about I knew this. So one of the other things that became apparent was that we are humans taking this in, and all we want to know about are the humans. We don't care about the robots. I realized relatively early on that, making the robots human is super important. And this thing only lives past a few episodes if people actually get to like or at least laugh at or with the robots. But everyone I'm seeing it on social media. Everyone's like sad for poo-poo, right? Like they're worried about the humans. They want to know. I knew that every episode we had to deal with the humans in some fashion. And it couldn't just be the three robots talking for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
We hone in on the human in any story and latch onto that. And part of the challenge of this show, what I wanted to do was no, the humans aren't the main character at all, at all. It's a really interesting challenge because everyone's like, yeah, but what are the humans doing? It's like, it doesn't matter what they're doing. That's the point of this show.
Right. To a certain extent, I agree. I don't necessarily am invested in the story of what the humans are up to. But man, it's hard not to feel empathic when Hundo is ripping their arms off in the first episode,
Yeah.
It's hard. They're dropping them at Garbage Island. That's where the humans live. Wait, I'm a human. I don't want my arms ripped off. Right. Yeah. It's a challenging kind of humor. It's really kind of a dark humor kind of thing. It's definitely played for laughs in the show, but it's pretty, it's pretty extreme. And it's these robots really don't care about the humans at all. Even Kit, who in the first episode adopts a human poo-poo, his empathy for the human extends really only to his own sense of self-gratification.
Yes, thank you. That's exactly. I'm going to steal how you just said that. I try not to do any proselytizing or anything. I try to just explore the idea and let those kind of satire things come through. But I imagine Kit looks at humans the way human race would look at dolphins or lobsters, where we know they have a language and empathy and feelings, but somehow we're like, meh. Hey, Timmy, go pick out the lobster to boil alive. It's crazy.
Many of these episodes are job of the week. The crew is sent to a particular location where they have to deal with an infestation. And usually the conflict comes not so much from the infestation, but from arguing among the crew or with the person who hired them for the job. In the first episode, they're hired by celebrity robot actor 8 Blanchett. We're going to talk about your puns later. But Kate Blanchett has an infestation of humans in her house, but the conflict really comes because Kate begins to flirt with Hundo on the job, and Kit becomes jealous of that. At the end of the episode, Kit ends up adopting one of the humans as a pet. Talk to me about this structure that you've sort of set up here of the job of the week.
I was terrified of doing long form writing. I always said I could, and I wrote lots of pitches and a couple of short pilot things, but to really tackle it, it was like, oh my gosh. So the hard structure of a job of the week, I really liked. And then I just slowly got better and better and expanded on the characters. I brainstormed jobs and then asked myself, which of these jobs really pulls at the insecurities of which of the robots. So hopefully a job does both. Hopefully it's an interesting job to, the process by which you capture the humans is interesting, but hopefully also the nature of whoever the client is or something about the job also, gets at Hundo's deepest insecurities or influxes or Kit's or all of them.
You include fake commercials. Full disclosure, you did hire me to do a voice for you for one of those commercials.
Yes.
So I'm looking forward to hearing that.
Yes.
But man, some of these are really funny. Talk to me about why you wanted to include fake commercials in your show.
It just felt it was a really great way of doing world building. One of the things about the world is there's a class struggle. It's one of my things that I rail on about and get angry about. For me, I had the robots or the blue collar, and then the algorithms are the rich, powerful bastards. So more often than not, the customers, the people who are calling, are rich algorithms with big estates. There's this definite divide between the robots and the algorithms. And then the commercials became a really great way. I have an advertising background. So then I got to show, these are ads for algorithms, and here's what algorithms worry about in this world. And then here's what robots worry about, and how the algorithms who are paying for the ads ostensibly are pushing the buttons of the robots to make them work harder and not think. And so I got to use all my propaganda muscles, all my anger at advertising, and use all those tools, and everyone at the studio as well. They know they've written 1 billion jingles or whatever. So we got to weaponize all that stuff and make, I get it a lot. People go, the commercials are great. It's like, that sounds awesome. I hope that's good. But we know how to make commercials. I'm hoping that the rest of it is also good,
You're not one of those lazy robots. You work hard, play hard, and work hard. That's why you reach for Energex. Energex contains photons, positrons, and kick-ass trons, so you can work all night. Energex for real robots. A member of the Red 4 family of products.
And so many puns. So many puns throughout the entire show. I love them. Why puns? What attracts you to those?
It was part of the world building, is trying to figure out what are the rules of this place. How do I continually show that this is a robot place? The puns help us just kind of grow a robot world. Yeah, and then you just get to have these in jokes.
Earlier on, you said that the genesis for this show came because you were terrified of the future with AI. What is your relationship with technology? Are you still terrified? Are you still afraid of the future?
Oh, 100%. I'm Hungarian, and so fear is like a baseline, fear and anger. So, yeah, in a way, it's no. You know what? It's not the technology. It's I wish I had more faith in our society's ability to roll with it and figure out how to get it back to working for humans in general and not for the system. My worry is that it will take a generation or two for society to figure out what to do with this stuff. And in the meantime, that it's going to be really tough on a lot of people before we figure that out. I mean, this is what we do, right? This is what we do as humans, is we come up with more and more amazing things, which is fantastic. And if we can use it. The promise way back in the 1900s was that we were all going to, the robots were going to make everything, and we were all going to just play guitar all day, which is technically still it was always possible.
Given how humanity is treated in the show, what is your feeling about the human condition and about humanity?
We can be so intelligent by ourselves, singularly. But when we get into groups, we just get so goddamn stupid. And I'm not sure that we're any smarter than like wolves or deer. And I think we're just we're acting just like, well, like raccoons in Toronto. They have no predators, so they're just making millions more until at some point they'll hit a peak, and then disease will wipe out half of them, and then they'll just keep doing it again. As I'm thinking about this more and more, there's not going to be any sort of war with the AI. I wonder if humanity will just go and say to the AI, can you tell us what to do? Maybe you can be God.
Yeah.
I could totally see that happening, where they were like, oh yeah, well, you have to get rid of this. Okay. I don't know.
Since we're talking about insecurities and so forth, what do you struggle with?
Well, there's a whole lot of imposter syndrome and depression, all those things. And then as it relates to working on stuff creatively, at any and all points, I can convince myself that it's not worth it. It's stupid. It's a waste of time. There's other things I could be doing. I could be spending time with my wife or with family or with friends or just getting outside. My brain can figure out a million reasons not to pursue an idea and to do the work on it. My hard drive is full of all sorts of ideas. Some are really, really good ideas. Lots of them are crap ideas, like all of us, but
Sure.
some of them were worth chasing down and really putting the time in and finishing it. As I gotten older and older, it's like, well, you better do something. You better finish something. That comic I mentioned was a thing that I wrote it as an indie comic because then I could control if it was going to get made. I didn't have to rely on anyone else. I knew at least I could get the thing made. This is a lot of work and did it. But then I sort of quit halfway through that too. So this one I was resolved. It was a good idea and I knew it was a good idea. So I was like, you will not let this one fall. You will make this somehow, some way.
How do you measure success?
The little successes, definitely. These little things you see when a stranger on Reddit raves about it, that's pretty amazing. Because once you get past your family and friends, right? You're like, yeah, your family and friends, they'll be nice enough. And that's wonderful too. But, we all have family and friends. But when a stranger says it, that's pretty gratifying. That's pretty wonderful. And that's a great thing to kind of go back and go through my Apple Podcast reviews. It's like, oh, that's awesome. And so I try to remember that and not let my brain say, yeah, but. And then when you say you like it, when other creators I really respect and admire say, that's a whole other drug. When someone you respect says, oh, I get it. Because then they really understand what you did.
What are some lessons that you have learned about creating audio drama that you could share with people who might want to create their own?
Writing for audio, I think it's really important to think about where you are in the space. Actually, Hannah on Madness of Chartrulian, she said something really cool in an article she wrote is, good sound design is thinking about the space, how you manage your space. And so even writing for it is that you have to really think about, okay, where am I? Where is this scene? Doing this reality show type of putting music on almost every line or every few lines really made you think about, okay, what's the scene about? From whose point of view is it? And what are they feeling? And what is the music doing? Is the music having a laugh at the person? Or is it Kit's feelings on the inside? Or are we just trying to build tension? Then writing scenes, you really think about it. Okay, what is this? Is this a rising tension moment? Is this Kit's internal tension? Or is this just Hundo being a dum-dum? I found dialogue editing and music editing really helped my writing.
So what's next for Human-B-Gon? How many episodes are you planning for season 1?
There's 11. So It goes until, I think, April. But in the meantime, I'm also spending as much time as I can on the marketing side, trying to figure out how to get past this sort of plateaued at a certain pretty small number. And I think in the community, folks know what Human-B-Gon is about. And now it's trying to get outside of the audio drama community, hopefully, maybe. Or maybe I still need to grow into there and kind of poke out of that, hopefully. I'm going on the assumption that this show is awesome and has no ceiling, right? Which I think you kind of have to, and then just try things, and then hopefully something pops.
I shine my light down the vent shaft. There they are, huddled against each other in a corner, trembling in their own filth. So helpless and frightened. Hard to believe that not too long ago, these ugly little things used to rule the planet. Makes you think about the utter fragility of our existence. That at any point, any of us could be...
Okay, let's scoop 'em and coop 'em.
On it!
Human-B-Gon uses the structure and sound of reality TV to great effect. Fans of reality shows will instantly recognize the beats and rhythms of the genre. The satire of the show also shines, exaggerating our anxieties and flaws through its insecure characters and pun-filled world. You can listen to Human-B-Gon on most major podcast platforms, or see our show notes for more details. The First Episode of is written and produced by W. Keith Timms. All the opinions expressed in this show belong to the people who expressed them, and not necessarily to anyone else. The theme song is Mockingbird by David Mumford. This show is a production of Alien Ghost Robot Creative Media. If you want more information, want to sign up for our newsletter, or are an audio drama creator and would like to be on the show, visit our website at TheFirstEpisodeOf.com. We're happy to be a part of the Audio Drama Lab, a Discord-based resource for audio drama development and networking. Check it out at audiodramalab.com. Keep telling stories. It's the only way we're going to get out of this mess. Until next time. I know you got questions about him. Where did he come from? How did he do all those things they say he did? Was he a terrorist? Was he crazy? Was his skin really blue? Well, I'll tell you what I know. I was there with him, driving through the back roads under the stars. I was witness to wonders and miracles, and to the darkness that's coursing through the veins of our country. He came to fight it in his own strange way, but no one leaves that fight unchanged. Not even Rael. People ought to know the truth. And I was there. The Book of Constellations is a down-to-earth sci-fi road trip. It's audio fiction, and you can find episodes at bookofconstellations.com or wherever you get your podcasts.